Even the waiters here earn more than you, Dad said at my sister's birthday dinner. Mom nodded. My sister cackled. The waiter heard everything. I smiled at him and said, "Bring the bill to me," then didn't pay it. Walked out. At 8:44 p.m., 29 missed calls. Dad's text, "They're holding us here until even the waiters here earn more than you." Dad said at my sister's birthday dinner, "My name is Tom, I'm 29, and I work as an animator. That means I spend my days making dragons blink, sandwich mascots dance, and one extremely demanding blue squirrel dab for a children's streaming show no one over the age of 7 is supposed to admit they watch. According to my family, however, I do not have a real job. To them, I draw cartoons on a laptop," which was funny because the last time my father had asked me to fix the Wi-Fi, he'd stood over my shoulder like I was performing open-heart surgery on the modem. Still, I was used to it. My dad, Bernard, had 2 favorite hobbies, overcooking steak and underestimating me. My mother, Elaine, had 1 hobby, nodding at whatever Dad said as if he were delivering sacred wisdom from a mountain. And my younger sister, Chloe, the birthday girl, treated sarcasm like an Olympic sport she had personally invented. So when Chloe invited all of us to dinner at one of those trendy downtown restaurants, where the menus are printed in fonts that look embarrassed to be read, I already knew how the night would go. Too much perfume. Too many fake laughs. One waiter named something elegant like Lucian, and at least 1 direct hit on my career. I still went, because I am an optimist. A stupid optimist apparently, but an optimist. The restaurant was called Maison du Soleil, which I think is French for small portions, giant ego. The host looked at me the way security guards look at unattended backpacks. Everyone inside was polished, glossy, expensive. Even the butter looked judgmental. Chloe was already seated when I got there, taking selfies with a cocktail that had a flower floating in it like it had dyed beautifully. "Tom," she said, "you made it." I was worried you'd be late because, cartoon traffic. Dad laughed before he even sat down. Mom smiled that soft little smile she used whenever she wanted plausible deniability later. "I'm here," I said. "Try not to make my entrance about you." Chloe rolled her eyes. "Please. Nobody could make anything about you." Great start. I took my seat. A tall waiter approached, sharp suit, silver tray, posture like he had been personally trained by swans. His name tag said Merksel. He poured water into our glasses with the solemnity of a priest performing a blessing. Dad watched me thank him and snorted. Then, because he had apparently decided to speedrun being awful, he leaned back, looked around at the polished chandeliers, and said loudly enough for 3 nearby tables and 1 emotionally intelligent fern to hear, "Even the waiters here earn more than you." Mom nodded. Chloe cackled. Actually cackled. Not laughed, not giggled. Cackled like a villainous ant in a low-budget fairy tale. And Marcel heard everything. I know he heard it because 1 eyebrow moved exactly 3 millimeters. A professional reaction, elegant. Controlled. The eyebrow of a man who had seen rich people cry over burrata. I looked up at him, he looked down at me. And something passed between us. Not romance, not friendship, a very specific kind of exhausted brotherhood. I smiled at him and said pleasantly, "Bring the bill to me." Dad smirked. Chloe straightened in her chair, delighted. Mom gave me a suspicious glance. "Oh," Dad said, "big spender. I thought animators were all underpaid artists living on noodles." Chloe said, "I branch out," I replied. "Sometimes I also live on rice." The meal continued with all the warmth of a hostage negotiation. Dad kept making little comments. "You still doing those? Doodles?" "Animation," I said. "Right, moving doodles." Mom asked whether I had ever considered something more stable, which was rich, coming from a woman who bought healing crystals from women named Starla on Facebook. Chloe kept talking about her new boyfriend, Trevor, who was in finance, which apparently meant he wore loafers without socks, and said circle back in romantic contexts. Meanwhile, Marcel glided in and out like a beautifully dressed ghost, silently witnessing my family's nonsense. Every time Dad made another jab, Marcel's expression suggested he was mentally awarding points. By dessert, Chloe was drunk enough to become louder and Dad was smug enough to become shinier. Then the bill came. Of course it did. Marcel placed the leather folder in front of me with a tiny, almost invisible nod, a ceremonial transfer of chaos. I put my hand on it. Dad folded his arms. Chloe leaned forward. Mom sipped wine like she was watching courtroom television. I opened the folder. The total was so high it looked less like a restaurant bill and more like ransom. I closed it, smiled, stood up, put on my jacket. Dad frowned. Where are you going? I adjusted my sleeve. Out? With the bill? Chloe said. No, I said, with my dignity. The bill is staying with the people who insulted the designated payer. And then I walked out. Just walked out. No sprinting, no dramatic speech, no flip table. Just a calm, elegant exit through a room full of polished cutlery and consequences. I heard Dad bark, Tom. I did not turn around. Outside, the night air smelled like rain, exhaust, and justice. I got into my car, drove 2 blocks, parked near a convenience store, and bought a pack of gum I did not need just to celebrate being free. At 8:44 p.m., my phone exploded. 29 missed calls. Dad's text came through first. They are holding us here until you come back. Then another. They said someone has to pay. Then the masterpiece. They are holding us here until you come back because apparently this place has a policy against birthday dinner escape artists. And then finally, the text that made me laugh so hard I had to sit on the hood of my car until you clown pay the bill. Not until you clown pay the bill. Not even proper punctuation, just the raw fury of a man defeated by syntax and appetizers. I stared at it. Read it again. Zoomed in. And the universe, in its mysterious generosity, handed me an idea so stupid, so beautiful, so absolutely perfect that I whispered, "Oh no," to no one. Because when life writes you the phrase you clown, sometimes you become one. The next morning I woke up with a level of purpose usually reserved for superheroes and tax auditors. I did not call back. I did not apologize. I opened my laptop and got to work. See, as an animator, I know costume rental websites very well. It's part of the business. 1 month you need a pirate reference. The next month, you need 3 separate photos of a medieval goose king. By noon, I had acquired the following: 1 clown suit, red and yellow, aggressively cheerful; 1 rainbow wig, deeply upsetting; 1 pair of shoes long enough to qualify as watercraft; 1 red foam nose; 1 tiny horn that made a sound like a bicycle having a breakdown. I also printed Dad's text and folded it into my wallet like legal evidence. Then I waited. I knew my family. They would not let this go. And right on schedule, Chloe called around 3 p.m. I answered on the 4th ring. "You humiliated us," she screamed. "Did the humiliation start before or after the creme brulee?" I asked. Dad came on next, breathing like a furious buffalo. "You left us there for an hour?" "I left you there." "Interesting. I seem to remember all of you being present when I was insulted." Mom got on the line. "Tom, this has gone far enough. You need to go back there and pay." "No," I said. "I need to go back there and resolve my portion of the evening." "What does that even mean?" Chloe snapped. "You'll see." And I hung up. At 6:30 that evening, I marched into Maison du Soleil, dressed as a clown. Not a tasteful clown. Not one of those modern artistic clowns with subtle melancholy and European sadness. No. I looked like a birthday party had suffered a head injury. The hostess blinked 3 times when I entered. A child in the lobby gasped, then applauded. An elderly man near the bar whispered, "Finally." And there, behind the host stand, I saw Marcel. He froze. His eyes widened. Then, bless him, he pressed his lips together so hard they nearly vanished. "Good evening, sir," he said, in the strained tone of a man fighting for his life. "Do you have a reservation?" I slowly removed the foam nose. "It's me," I said. Marcel stared for 1 beat. Then he turned away, bent double, and made a sound like a kettle dying. When he recovered, his face was red. "You came back," he said. I was summoned, I replied, and showed him the screenshot of Dad's text. He read it. He looked at me. He looked at the screenshot again. Then he whispered, "Please tell me you wore this because of that." "I'm an artist," I said. "I believe in honoring notes from the client." Marcel had to grab the podium. "I need," he said, wheezing, 1 full minute. He disappeared into the back. I heard muffled laughter, multiple people, possibly a collapse. When he returned, he had composed himself enough to say, "Your family is here. Wonderful. Lead me to the crime scene." They were seated at a side table, all 3 of them. Dad looked furious. Mom looked offended on behalf of civilization. Chloe looked like she might actually burst into flames from secondhand embarrassment. The second they saw me, the table went silent. I gave a cheerful little honk on the horn. Honk! Every head in the room turned. Tom, Dad said, voice low and deadly. What are you wearing? I beamed. Apparently, what's required before I'm allowed to pay. Chloe slapped a hand over her face. Oh my God. Mom hissed. Take that thing off. No, I said. I'm meeting the dress code indicated in your text. Dad stood up. Don't be smart with me. I pulled out my phone and read aloud, in my best dramatic narrator voice. Until you clown pay the bill. A nearby couple started laughing. Marcel, standing a safe distance away, turned abruptly and pretended to study a wine bottle. Dad's ears went pink. That is not what I meant, he growled. And yet, I said, gesturing broadly to myself, here we are. Chloe tried a different tactic. Fine, joke's over. Pay the bill. Absolutely, I said. All three of them relaxed. That was their mistake. I sat down, asked for a menu, ordered a bowl of onion soup and a sparkling water. Dad stared. What are you doing? Having dinner. You already had dinner here yesterday. Yes, and it ended with emotional enrichment but not closure. The soup arrived. I ate it slowly, very slowly. I dipped the bread. I complimented the cheese. I asked Marcel whether the onions had been caramelized in-house. He said yes, with the glowing serenity of a man watching destiny unfold. My family sat there in total disbelief, while I enjoyed the most peaceful soup of my life dressed as a clown. Finally, when I was done, I dabbed my mouth with the napkin, asked for my bill, and took out my card. Dad slapped the table. Tom, I looked at him. What? You said you'd pay the bill. I replied that I would come back and pay. Yes. And I did. For my dinner. Chloe's jaw dropped. Only your dinner? Correct. Mom leaned in. What about our part? I folded my hands, smiled, spoke gently, clearly, and with the full calm of a man who has storyboarded many revenge fantasies. Your part remains unpaid, much like your respect. Marcel actually choked. Dad looked ready to explode. You cannot be serious. Oh, I'm not serious at all, I said, tapping the red nose. That's kind of the point. Then I stood, placed a few bills for the tip, and said to Marcel, thank you for the excellent service. Again. He bowed his head slightly. Always a pleasure. I turned back to my family. Dad was sputtering. Chloe looked like she had discovered shame for the first time. Mom had the pinched expression of someone realizing the universe did not, in fact, revolve around her casserole schedule. Enjoy the rest of your evening, I said, and next time, maybe don't mock the person you expect to subsidize dessert. I took 3 steps away, then paused, turned back, and delivered the final line with all the sweetness I could manage. By the way, Dad, your text was missing a comma, but the message still worked. Then I honked the horn one last time, honk, and walked out. I found out later what happened because Marcel messaged me on Instagram. Yes, apparently he found me by searching the studio credits from a commercial I'd worked on, which is either flattering or terrifying, but I accepted it because the man had earned the right. According to him, Dad tried arguing with the manager. The manager did not care. Chloe tried crying. The manager cared even less. Mom suggested that the restaurant was being vindictive. The manager, who had apparently reviewed security footage from the night before, informed them very politely that what they were experiencing was called standard billing procedure. In the end, Dad had to pay. And because the original dinner plus drinks plus service charge plus extended table occupancy had ballooned into something catastrophic, he was furious for days. Chloe had to cancel a weekend trip. Mom said the whole incident had damaged the family dynamic, which was adorable considering they had brought the dynamite. And me? I went back to work Monday morning and animated a jelly bean doing karate. Honestly, it was less ridiculous than my family. The best part came a week later when Dad called. Not to apologize, of course. He'd rather French kiss a cactus. He cleared his throat and said, "Your mother tells me your latest project got picked up by a larger client." It did. That good money? Better than waiting tables, I said. He was silent. Then quietly. Right. I smiled. Sometimes boundaries are loud. Sometimes it wears giant shoes. And sometimes, if the universe really loves you, it arrives with a red nose, a paid personal bill, and leaves everyone else exactly where they belong, still sitting there with their own check.